What's going on, YouTube family? Today we're going to be talking about why millions of Americans can't refinance their cars. So in my last video, I talked a lot about how people are upside down in their auto loans and it's going to have major ramifications when they try to refinance later. After I said that, I got tons of messages in the comment section as well as my email asking me, can I elaborate more? Can I make a video on it? So I figured I'd make a video talking about this because there are lots of people sitting on the sidelines waiting for the interest rates to go down so they could refinance their car. But there are a lot of things in play, whether you're actually upside down in your auto loan. Some banks don't like to refinance certain cars, which I'm going to go over. And on top of that, how does it actually affect you? So there are a few things you need to know before refinancing your car. The very first thing you need to know is, what is my vehicle value? This is very important. This is the main reason why millions of Americans will not be able to refinance their cars. So if your car is worth $60,000, but you owe $75,000, unfortunately, no bank is going to want to refinance you unless you put a significant amount down. This is the problem I told a lot of people. They were all told, oh, just get the car, pay on it for a few months and then refinance it. During the pandemic, a lot of people overextended themselves and bought cars they couldn't really afford at a higher interest rate, expecting to basically come around and refinance it a little bit later down the line. Now, there are some people that do have low interest rates, but they've paid enough on their car where they could probably refinance it and extend it out another 72 months. Unfortunately, it does not work that way if you actually owe more than the car. Now, there are very few credit unions that will actually help you, but you got to have immaculate credit. I would talk to them and ask them, hey, look, I'm looking at refinancing my car. Can you actually do an appraisal? Can my vehicle qualify for refinancing? Another thing that's going to hurt a lot of people is the mileage. A lot of banks are getting very picky when it comes to the cars they're refinancing. So even though the car may be a newer car, if the mileage is too high, don't be surprised if a bank walks away. There are so many banks that have been burned by Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, Postmate drivers, that if they refinance a car at low single-digit interest, they're really afraid that you're going to use it for commercial use and you're going to rack up a bunch of miles. So if you have a bunch of miles, please make sure you talk to the banks and say, hey, look, I got a 2022. It's got about 70,000 miles. Does my car qualify? The next thing is the year of your car. This is going to play a major role in what kind of interest rate you get and how long of a term you're going to get. Now, during the pandemic, a lot of banks went way overboard financing old cars like 2007 Chevy Silverados for 72 months. Those days are gone. Banks are going back to their regular programs. So if you have, let's say, a 2012 with maybe 100,000 miles, some banks will only loan maybe 80% of LTV. They're going to want to give you maybe 10 to 15% interest because it is an older vehicle. And that term is going to be cut down probably from 72 months all the way down to maybe 36 to 48 months. They're going to try to keep it as risk-free as possible. They want to shorten that term because they know it's an older car and you're going to have issues with it. So a lot of people with older cars trying to refinance, you need to keep this in mind because unfortunately I see it every week. People are going to their credit unions, going to other banks and wondering, how come I can't finance my older car? That's the main reason why. And don't be surprised if a lot of banks flat out tell you no just because of the year of your car. Another one that has major ramifications on your refinancing is the actual make and model. I tell people this all the time. Every car has what's called a risk emblem. Every bank rates a car in different ways. So like a Honda, a Toyota, Ford F-150, Chevy Silverado, those are cars that they really like because they last longer, their maintenance is a little bit less, and when they go to resell them, they usually get their money back. Other cars they don't like, older Mercedes, high mileage Lexuses, Volvos, other things like that. There's a bunch of cars that they do not want to lend on, especially cars that are no longer made anymore. Even if you got a smoking deal on a Saturn Sky, if you guys know what those are, some banks will not finance it. I had another client that had a 07 or I can't remember, it was last year, of the H2 Hummer. Beautiful car, 10,000 miles. No bank wants to refinance it because it is just a model that they do not want to mess with. So let's just say you have a Mercedes that's a little bit older. Don't be surprised that even if you have good credit and you go to the bank, they're going to say, hey, look, this car, it's an older Mercedes. It's got a little more miles. It's a little bit more riskier. We don't think we're going to take on that burden unless we can actually make it worth our while. So instead of maybe 8%, we're going to offer you 12.5%. And instead of maybe 52 months or 48 months, we're going to offer you maybe 38 to 36 months. These are the things that the banks are going to do to try to offset their risk because unfortunately, banks do not like every single car. And the big one is, unfortunately for a lot of people watching, is the EVs. EVs have rapidly depreciated so quickly that a lot of banks are absolutely afraid of them. So they will not refinance them. So don't be surprised if you go to a small town bank or a credit union and they tell you, no, we're not going to mess with it. More than likely, if you have an EV, I would recommend going to either a tier 1 bank, Bank of America, US Bank, Ally, something like that, to try to get the best deal you possibly can, because a lot of people saw how fast the EV market dropped and they're looking at staying away. And those are majority of the people I see right now trying to refinance. And unfortunately, the majority of those people are so upside down in their cars, they're not going to be able to do it. Another thing that's completely changed is proof of income. Now, when you signed up and bought your car probably 2 years ago, they may have asked you for a pulse and the sign here and maybe a few docs, and that's it, and you're able to drive away. Banks now are getting more stringent when it comes to approving loans, when it comes to refinancing. So they want to know that you have a good job. You've been on there for at least 6 months to a year, depending on which bank, because they all have different programs. So even if you've had the same job for, let's say, 5 years, and you decide you want to quit your job at the bakery and you become a plumber, banks see that as a change of profession, and it starts your job time all over again. Even though you're making more money and it's a much better job, they will actually tell you no, they have to have maybe 6 months, maybe 1 year of track record before you qualify for financing. Also, a lot of people are getting money off of PayPal and all these other ones. A lot of rideshare app people, if you're doing Uber Eats and Lyft and you're using a completely different car, if your proof of income comes from Uber, Turo, HireCar, Postmates, Amazon, don't be surprised if they flat out tell you no. Every bank is worried about you actually taking that car and running around and using it for a delivery vehicle. It sounds crazy. It could even be a 2-door sports car and you can tell them it doesn't even qualify for it. It still will happen. So if you are getting paid as one of those drivers or something else like that, have that pay your actual LLC in a separate bank account and then write a check from that LLC to your personal account. That's the best way to do it. But banks will get stringent upon that. Another one is proof of income. They're getting really strict on this one. They want to see pay stubs. Not only pay stubs, they're going to verify it. Every company is using Plaid now. If they can't verify the checking account it's coming to or the checking account it's depositing from, more than likely they will turn down your refinance. They don't want to mess with it. They don't have any headaches. They just want to keep it simple and not have any issues. Next thing is proof of residency. Before, this wasn't a big deal. People were moving around because of the pandemic. Nobody really cared. Now, banks are so scared because they see people basically becoming transient and disappearing on them. And so they want to be able to chase their car down if they got to look for it. So they want to make sure you have a lease that's in your name. You've been there for, 3 to 4 months. There's family members in there. I've seen some good credit unions want you to be at least for 1 year in a single residency. I have other banks that if you've moved 3 times in 3 years, they will automatically cancel you, which I think is wrong because I'm one of those people too. I like to move from one place to the other, one part of town just to check it out. But banks don't like that. They like to see the same thing over and over again. They feel comfortable with seeing long addresses for long periods of time, long job time, all that other stuff. Another thing is when you move from state to state. So a lot of people, unfortunately, move because of the pandemic. But now let's say you get a new job in California, so you leave Texas to move to California for your new job. They're going to see that as a risk. They think that you're going to go broke, you're going to move back home. So they may not want to finance you because you just moved. So there's a lot of crazy things that are going to get much more strict when it comes to refinancing cars. These are all the things I highly recommend you look at before you think about refinancing your car. But anyways, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Please let me know your thoughts on refinancing the cars. Do you have any credit unions or banks that you like? I prefer Navy Fed, Penn Fed, America First Credit Union. There are a lot of banks like that give you smoking deals, especially if you're ex-military. If you're not military, don't worry. If your family member is, you also qualify. So try to go that route. Also, I am building a Tesla for SEMA. That's why I'm dirty and I look like the way I am right now, is because I'm currently working on it and I got about 2 weeks till SEMA. So a lot of people tune into my videos of me talking about auto finance and the car market and how to flip cars and stuff like that. But I would really appreciate your guys' support with my build videos. I actually have a lot of people that don't even know that I actually build cars on this channel. So tomorrow I will be coming out with a build video on the actual Tesla. I bought a 2023 Tesla. I cut it in half, made it a 2-door, and I'm actually putting a 2JZ in it. We're making a drift race car for SEMA. It's going to be absolutely insane. So make sure you tune in for that. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Follow me on Instagram at Lucky Lopez, and we'll see you next video.